I've expanded my overview document here for the HTML Fundamentals course. And I have a paragraph that describes the course and provides the overview. Now in there I use things like HTML and IE for Internet Explorer. In another paragraph I'm talking about CSS and HTTP. These are all things where I want to call out that these are acronyms or abbreviations. So I use the acronym element here to wrap up HTML. You can see I'm able to apply the title attribute and call out that what that stands for is Hypertext Markup Language. Or the abbreviation tag, similar concept, I call out that IE is an abbreviation for Internet Explorer. So if we look at that, what that looks like, we render here, you'll notice that HTML just shows up as part of the text. It doesn't render any differently, but if I mouse over, I see the expanded title for Hypertext Markup Language. Likewise for the abbreviation, I see that says Internet Explorer, CSS is Cascading Style Sheets, and HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So it gives me an easy way to use those abbreviations and acronyms, but also provide for people the expanded title of that particular piece of text. Another item I have down here is in this particular paragraph, I talk about the fact that we don't cover certain topics because they're covered in other courses. And I'm going to later want to create these little links through a footnote or citation or note citation here to those courses. So I have a little 1, 2, and I put it in the superscript tag here. So as we go look, that gets rendered out. You can see raised up and shrunk a little bit above that as a superscript for those items. And I can, within that superscript, then add links and other items within that text if I need to. And I have some quotes and some citations here. So I have a little blurb here where I'm saying this is some history about HTML. And I want to say that Tim Berners-Lee is credited with creating the World Wide Web in HTML. And I'm going to cite Tim Berners-Lee. So I just wrap that up, and typically that renders out in italics, where then I'm going to also provide a quote from him. So I use the block quote to say, here's a chunk of text. I want you to do block quote formatting on it. And again, the white space, we can clean this up a little bit. You'll see that the white space is going to get ignored as it does the block quoting. But for the citation, really, you're just calling out a person. This is primarily just informational that you're citing a particular person. And then the block quote actually has the cite attribute where I'm then going to point to the document where I got this quote. And this does in fact point to the document that was authored by him, a draft around the World Wide Web Initiative. And this quote was pulled from there. So I provide that as the link. So if we render that, again, you can see that the block quote is just going to render based on the wrapping, but it does get indented differently than a paragraph. So it is called out, and you kind of notice that it is a quote. The citation simply gets noted here by changing the font face or the font style to an italicized version. And you'll notice that if I look at these things, there isn't really any indication of the URI. So if I wanted to be kind of transparent, I would probably put a footnote link or some sort of a way for people to actually link to that document. But it's good to put those citation attributes on there so that in your HTML you have tied to that citation or that block quote a particular URI, so that somebody who's maybe not using a browser but that's following this or a search engine might be able to see that block quote and see that you have a citation to another document and help you and help other users navigate the web. Now, some of these items, as we've seen, are useful in providing us this information. So the acronym is there. One of the things you may have noticed, though, is there's no visual indication that mousing over this might actually be helpful. There's nothing that tells me that that's an acronym until I mouse over it. And so this is where we get into kind of leveraging other things outside of HTML proper into maybe using style sheets. So I'm not going to use styles extensively in this course except to show some particular examples. And so what I have in the header here is a style for these things, and I've commented out. And this is another important piece of using text within your markup, that if you have a block and you do the less than exclamation mark and then 2 dashes, that starts a comment. And then 2 dashes and the greater than symbol completes it. You can see everything is grayed out now because it considers it part of the comment, and that closes my comment block. So I'm going to lose those, and I'm going to add the style in, and what this says is anywhere you see an acronym element, color it green. So I'm going to save that. We'll change that, and now you can see that those acronyms are called out. They're green, so now I think, oh, I wonder what that is, and I'll mouse over it and get the example. Notice that because IE was an abbreviation, it's not called out, but I could do similar things with the abbreviation as well, or apply the same or similar style. Likewise, I have this highlight applied here, so we can just see, as we drop back to the initial where we talked about block versus inline, my span of HTML drives the web has a class of highlight, and I've said anything that's set up as highlight should be underlined. So we can see that getting applied here as well, where we're using those text elements to, within a paragraph, call out a particular block of text with a span and do something with it. In this case, I applied a simple style. You might change the font or the color, a variety of different things you might use that span for, but it allows me to specify that little chunk of text and do something with it without changing the flow of the document and continuing to allow that paragraph to be rendered as it was intended.